thinking, and I made a video like this before, but in reality, it was never just about getting bigger, it was never just about, showing up to the gym and becoming like some mass monsters because like sure when we started or when I started at least I know, I wanted to get a better physique, not just for the sake of having a better physique, but because I was tired. I was tired of being ridiculed. I was tired of hating myself. I was tired of not showing up for myself in really any way, shape, or form. And that's what I mean when I say it was never just about the gym. It was never just about the physique. It was never just about, oh, let me pack on 40 pounds for no reason. No. Like when I first started, or before I started, let's go back to that. You know, I was 90 pounds. I was obviously skinny. I was the smallest guy in pretty much every single room that I walked into. And obviously being younger, this weighs down on your confidence, not only your perception of yourself, but the way that other people treat you, because growing up younger, being on that side of the spectrum, it's really easy for everybody to just kind of ridicule you for pretty much no reason at all. Like everywhere that I was going, everywhere that I went, no matter if it was like a family reunion, a restaurant, no, literally everywhere that I went without fail, these people would make fun of me. These people would put me down. And these people had no sort of respect for me. And because of that, I ended up almost having no respect for myself. Right. So, other than me getting up and actually doing something about it, other than me telling myself, you know what, I'm going to make a change, it put me down sort of this mental spiral. It put me down this downward spiral to where, all these people were around me, just poking at me, not respecting me, not taking me seriously. And, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to change it. I didn't know how to make these people respect me. I didn't know how to, respect myself more than I did at all. Right. And, I just sat in my sadness for a while. Like I was just depressed and I would just soak into that sadness for years. Like I would soak in that for years and years and years on end. And, you know, it just destroyed me, man. Like realistically, it truly destroyed me. That's exactly what it did. And it destroyed me in a way to where it wasn't just, hey, I'm a little less confident. It wasn't just, hey, you know, I kind of don't like myself. It was like burning self-hatred. It was burning hatred. And it obviously, pushed me down a really dark path. And I ended up getting to the point to where, I was suicidal. I ended up getting to the point to where I was like, I'm so tired of being in this pain. I'm so tired of, not being the version of me that I want to be. I'm so tired of these people not respecting me. I'm so tired of, me having to hide my body everywhere that I went. I'm so tired of this and I don't know what to do about it. And things are just getting worse and stress is just packing on. And, people are saying more things. I'm feeling worse about myself on a day to day. Every single day it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And eventually I hit a breaking point. Eventually I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm not dealing with this anymore. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm tired of living this way. I'm tired of feeling this way about myself. And I'm tired of nothing changing. So it got to the point to where, obviously, like I said, I was just gonna remove myself from this world because I felt like that was the only thing that I could do. I felt like that was the only choice that I had. And that's why I always say, it was never just about, showing up to the gym just to be as big as possible. It was never about, going to the gym just to get like the dream physique. No, it was about proving to myself that I could change. It was about proving to myself that, maybe I did have some sort of control over the situation. Maybe I did have some sort of control over my life. Maybe, just maybe, I would be able to change so these people would respect me a little bit more, so I could respect myself a little bit more. And that's exactly what I did. So when I started going to the gym, obviously I went there, for the surface level things because in my mind I was thinking, okay, if I just get bigger, At least I wouldn't have to hide my body anymore. If I could just get some abs, if I could just, pack on a couple more pounds, maybe I would feel a little bit better about myself. So I started going, right? I started going to the North Kansas City YMCA. If you ever been to Kansas City, or if you're from Kansas City, you know exactly what that is. So I started going there. And then, obviously I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to, train the right way, eat the right way. But, I was showing up for myself regardless. And I ended up finding a mentor, my friend Logan, bro. I'll never forget this guy. He like pretty much put me under his wing for like the first year that I was lifting, man. He showed me everything. I started making physical progress and I was getting stronger, but that wasn't the biggest thing. The biggest thing was the mental transformation. The biggest thing was that internal transformation that I needed so bad, but I didn't know how to get. Right. So as I was getting stronger, as I was, filling out my frame a little bit more and being more consistent, I was developing discipline, right? I was developing real discipline and I was showing up for myself and pushing myself as hard as I could because I knew that putting myself through that pain would yield me some sort of result. And that in itself built a mental respect, or it built this respect that I have for myself because I knew in the dark, I knew what I was doing, right? I knew that I was putting in the work. I knew that I was showing up for myself. I knew that I was actively working towards becoming better. So fast forward, I gained 10 pounds, right? Because when I started, I was around like 90 to 100, let's just say 100. So I gained 10 pounds, right? I'm just 110-pound, still pretty skinny guy, but I'm walking around with tank tops on. I'm walking around with my head up high. I'm not hiding my body anymore. In my school, we had a uniform and we had these things called fleeces. It was like a turtleneck with a long sleeve. And I would wear that every single day, even in the hot. Like it was 90 degrees outside. I was in my fleece. I was sweating. I was in my fleece because I was so scared of these people seeing the thing that I was so ashamed of, which was my body, right? But the moment that I made that switch, the moment that I decided to actually show up for myself, the moment that I decided to actually commit to something and do that relentlessly over and over and over again, simply because I wanted to become this version of me that I wanted to be so bad, that in itself gave me what I needed, right? I didn't need to just get bigger. I didn't need to just have a better physique. I didn't need to just lift weights. No, I needed to respect myself. I needed to build real confidence that it didn't have to be fake. I needed to actually put in the work in order to get what I thought I needed, which was the physique, but also to get what I really truly needed, which was just that me becoming a different version of me that I was actually happy to see, right? And obviously, this impacted me significantly. Like I said, my confidence skyrocketed. I was able to make progress. I was able to do this. I was able to do that. And my habits were dialed in. I was really showing up for myself in a lot of different areas of my life. But with something that I don't want you guys to think is that the gym is just going to be, a band-aid that you can put on that's going to like fix all your problems. No, like the gym is going to give you the tools that you need to make progress in every area of your life. It's going to build your mind in a way that you need to attack every single area of your life. It's going to really prepare you for those things that are going to come up. But I don't want you guys to make the mistake that I made. And, you know, this time period is pretty short because I kind of like ran through this process pretty fast. But it was a course to where I was ridiculously insecure. I was suicidal. I was depressed, and then I dialed in for a bit. I fixed these things that were actually happening in my mind, and I was actually becoming a version of myself that I respected, and I was making more physical progress. But then I made the mistake of thinking or putting all my eggs in the basket of just the gym. I made the mistake of, you know, going to the gym and prioritizing only that. And then I started to neglect my internal self. I started to neglect my self development. And that's where everything started to fall apart. So me in college, like I was in really good shape. I was getting stronger. I was like making progress in the gym 100%. But then I started to kind of neglect myself outside of just the gym. I was waking up late. I started, doing drugs. I started hanging around people. I started hanging around the wrong people. I started going to parties. I started, coping in all these different ways. And then, my self-development completely fell off, like I said. And, before I knew it, I was this version of me that was bigger, sure, but internally I still felt the same way that I did before my journey. And that was simply because I didn't have that piece that was missing, right? I didn't have the full piece that I needed to actually be happy with myself, right? And that was simply just the version of me that I wasn't proud to be, right? Like the version of me that I was, sure I was bigger, sure I had more muscle, sure I was stronger, but I still didn't like the person that I was when I looked in the mirror. Like I said, fast forward, a lot of things happened in my life. I spiraled down mentally, and then I'm back suicidal again, right? And the reason why I kind of say that, or the reason why I tell you guys that, is because I want to really solidify the fact that it's never just about getting bigger. It was never just about packing on more muscle. It was never just about, going to the gym and pushing as much weight as possible. Sure, that was part of it. Sure, it was enjoyable. Sure, that's like the cherry on top. But in reality, it was just about becoming that version of you that you could look in the mirror and genuinely be proud of, right? Just becoming that version of you that you are actually happy to be, and to consistently pursue that better version of you that you know you should be, right? And really I want you guys to take this, if you don't take anything else from this video. Pretty short video, but you watching this, you behind the screen, I want you to understand that, the physique is simply just a cherry on top, man. If you're thinking about going to the gym, if you're skinny, if you're insecure, if you're depressed, you don't just need to get bigger. You need to become a completely different version of yourself and completely shift your identity and completely change in every single aspect, right? It's a bit windy out here. And understand that it's not just about the gym. It's never just been about the gym, and it will never be just about the physique. And the moment that you're able to realize that and actually change if you need to, it's going to be the moment to where you're actually going to become that version of you that you know you should be. So, love you guys. Jesus loves you too. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.